light 'em up in the ring, light 'em up, shoot, shine, do your thing, light 'em up in the ring, light 'em up, shoot, shine, do your thing, light 'em up, go dumb, go stupid, yeah, we undefeated, sucker free, we got the seats heated, let's face it, you bout to get a beat down, less talking, let's take it to the streets now, ain't gonna be no rematch, why you wanna fight, touchdown on sight, yeah, turn off the light, oh, turn off the light, let's get it poppin', go dumb. When you see me moving, bodies dropping. Move some. I'm about to go sick. Call Earl. I'm turning up like E40, not your average girl. I'm turning up. We can rock like Rocky. Make you tap it. Ghost ride the whip. Look at my drip. This ain't a copy. We got a night if you wanna throw hands. When they see me fight, they wanna throw bands. Go dumb, go stupid. Yeah, we undefeated. Sucker free, we got the seats heated. Light 'em up in the ring. Light 'em up. Shoot, shine, do your thing. Light 'em up. Light 'em up in the ring. Light 'em up. Shoot, shine, do your thing. Light 'em up.
It's time for the main event. It's the Shoe Shine.
¿Qué onda, vatos locos? It's your boy Dave in the 702 coming back at you for a special Thursday night big fight, mega fight preview of Canelo Crawford with my good friend Lucas Ketelle of BoxingScene.com and also a published author. Great to have you back on my channel, Lukey. Great to have you. How's it going, Lukey?
You know, I'm doing my thing. I like that intro.
No, I appreciate that. I had the girl rapping on that is Australian, by the way, and I met her on one of these like where you can meet other content creators and pay them to do stuff. I'm like, can you do something that represents the Bay Area? I thought she nailed it, except for the beat. I'm not too. If anybody knows how to remix that, I can get the acapella. That would be great. But I thought she nailed it for an Australian rapper. I said, just give me something that sounds like it came from the Bay Area. Well, great to have you on the show.
Me the okey doke. I thought you said you were gonna meet her. You met her off a dating app.
Oh,
so
no.
You hit me with the curveball there.
Good to see you, SB. I appreciate you in here. It's Thursday, big fight weekend. I had told my audience that I was going to try to do some of these media events leading up to the big fight, but yesterday I had a really bad day. Some of you guys know I'm still recovering from the surgery, but I'm praying I'm fine. I feel good today. I feel great that tomorrow is the big weigh-in. And Lukey, unlike typical PBC top rank weigh-ins, which are like early afternoon, this one is set for 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. evening. So I'm going to get a real good sense of the vibe, the energy of a big fight preview weekend, because it's nighttime. By the time that thing comes out, it'll be 8 o'clock and I'll have an idea of like how many people have come to Las Vegas. Over 55,000 seats are accounted for in a stadium that holds a lot more than that. But I'm going to figure half of those people are going to try to go to the T-Mobile tomorrow for free to, watch these ceremonial weigh-ins on Friday night. And today the press conference is also free in the evening. But I'm not going to go to that one. But good to see everybody here. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it so much. Lukey, I want to ask this but I don't want to get you in any kind of trouble. But I'm hearing
you got to do what you got to do.
All right,
right?
I'm hearing that.
Do what you got to do.
I'm hearing from people on the streets that a lot of media reporters are being iced out from covering this fight. And it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to me. It feels almost like... it feels a disservice to journalism, to people that are honestly in this profession here and believe themselves to be journalists, to be frozen out of covering this event, a mega fight.
So I think I can speak on a little bit of this. You're speaking on an article that went on Boxing Scene by Eric Raskin, one of the great modern boxing writers, one of the best writers. I think he's really, really tremendous. And he wrote an award-winning piece, basically, stating that, Lance Pugmire, who's someone that I've learned so much from and I hold to such high regard, he has only been nothing but nice to me, and he never had to be nice, which is like the sign of just a great person. He could have treated me however, because he's a legend, and all he's ever done is teach me stuff and given me extra knowledge. And the fact that Lance isn't credentialed for this fight is a disservice to the event and the fans, first and foremost. That's what I'll just say, is it's a disservice to the fighters involved and the fans who are excited. And I think that for those who want to learn more about it, they should look at the Eric Raskin story, because the Raskin piece is really well done, and it lays out a lot of what it is. And Eric did an interview today on Boxing Scene Today, I believe, and people can kind of explore that. But I think that really my opinions and my views aren't all that fascinating on this subject. Listen to what Eric put in the piece. It's an award-winning piece, and that's really where you should get your information from.
Well, I do know ProBox, associated with BoxingScene.com. They will be doing a post-fight show, right? Or maybe even pre-fight and post-fight with Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri, and the rest of their co-hosts. They're still going to go through with that, right? Even there's no hard feelings. They'll still talk after the fight, right?
I have no. I'm part of the writing team,
right.
So I don't know. So I can't say whether or not, but what I will say is if you go to Boxing Scene, there's still coverage of the event. Nothing has changed.
Great coverage too.
All I can say is that nothing really changes. I can't get into details about the event or whatever, but the goal, I'm like the weakest link at Boxing Scene, right? And that it's always good to feel like everyone else is stronger around you and you have to build up. But for me, when I work at some place like Boxing Scene, I think the goal is to always try to give people that work a 9 to 5 exciting boxing content that gets them thrilled for their weekend off, where boxing's probably a part of their weekend. It's part of their tradition. So I think the goal stays the same, is to give fans stuff that gives them excitement, that brings to light new fighters, that really tries to make you enthused about boxing in the week ahead. And for me, sometimes it feels like a hamster wheel because you're kind of doing the same thing every week. But the goal is to kind of, at least for me, and I feel like I serve a different purpose on a deeper level. I'm not a main event fight coverage guy. Maybe one day I will, but I'm more of the guy that goes to the undercards, finds the stories with the 2-0 fighters. That's kind of my niche in boxing currently. So for me, it's just, it kind of is business as usual. I'm talking with kind of the fighters I talk with, and I love boxing and I love telling the stories, and I don't really see how things would change.
Well, I got to give you some credit, Lukey, because of speaking of great articles, I thought today that I could base today's episode based on the article you wrote September 10th on BoxingScene.com. I'm looking at it right now. It's how this fight is going to play out, round by round, by Lucas Ketelle. So I thought maybe that would be a great basis for today's show.
So we can go through my piece. And that also, like, if you look, Boxing Scene, and this is like, the goal is to present great coverage. And that's the goal. So for this, that much credit to the great editor, Matt Christie. This was one of the ideas, and I jumped at the opportunity to kind of, I don't know, fantastically do water cooler talk over the breakdown of the fight. And I think that times like these, right, where you have less access, allow you to show the versatility. Because I think Boxing Scene, and I'll shut up about Boxing Scene, I think it's the greatest roster ever of boxing writers, because of the diversity of the types of talents we have. I think every single angle of boxing coverage is covered in Boxing Scene, because we have the superstars of every aspect of boxing. So I think that, without tooting my own horn, Raskin wrote the best story of the week, but I'm pretty proud of this piece. So
yeah, I'm just looking at it right now. But before we get to that coverage and the people have been on the fence whether they love the undercard or not. I think the undercard is going to play out pretty well, actually. I wanted to ask you your take on this past weekend. I thought there was some actually really, really good fights, and one of them that's going to be, important is that super middleweight bout where Shishkin got demolished by Iglesias. And that's a guy that obviously now he's going to be high in the rankings for the super middleweight conversation. He comes away with an impressive win. And I
interim
cannot,
champion now.
Yeah, now I have to talk about him with the winner of Christian Inmilly and Lester Martinez, who are on the undercard. Who, in my humble opinion, I think they should have been the co-main, because they could potentially be opponents to the winner of the main event. But that Fernando Vargas Walsh card, I'll talk about that when that fight, we'll talk about that when the time comes. It's going to be good too, guys. So we had that fight this weekend, Lukey, and we were on the phone, and I had the pleasure of watching both of these guys fight. Segawa on Pro Box, who had beat, we had talked about it, he had beat Ruben Villa in Las Vegas, shocked everybody there. Ruben felt like he had 100 people cheering him on. Segawa upsets him. Then he gets in with Bruce Shushu Carrington. I thought he won that fight. I thought he did enough to win that fight. Controversial win for Bruce. He wins again in an impressive fashion. The main event, Giron, saw him fight against Floyd Schofield, dropped him. Oscar De La Hoya himself said, I give you a C-. I think he said right after the performance, he gives you a C-. Both of these guys on Pro Box, to me, look like guys that belong in the contender in their respective weight divisions. They're legit contenders. What do you think about their performances on Pro Box this weekend?
Well, I mean, when does Pro Box, and now I'm going to sound like a company shields, but when does Pro Box not deliver, right? The idea of Pro Box is you have Jordan White, short dog, taking on Rene Tellez Garon, or Tellez, who's kind of like the best version of a journeyman. He's a guy who, he doesn't really set up his shots, but he targets the body and he hits hard, but he doesn't really have like that finesse to really go to the next level. So like you saw him knock out Carlos Balderos. He beat George Acosta. He beat Alex. I forget Alex's last name, but it starts with a D. And now he's beating Short Dog. And he kind of shows who doesn't have that attribute, the world-class boxing ability mixed with power. Because there's an element with when you fight Tellez Garon, you have to have power to kind of make him think, to make him hesitate, but you also have to have world-class boxing ability where you can, outmaneuver him, but also stand with him, make him respect the shots, and then go back to boxing him. With White, I just saw that he was too much trying to outbox him. And it looked like, to me, Jordan White, who's shown a lot of power in his career, he looked like a professional amateur in this fight.
Okay.
He was fighting an amateur boxing style with a guy that I think gains momentum. It's kind of like a running back. Remember Lamont Jordan for the Raiders? Like Lamont, you never wanted Lamont to get those 4 or 5 yard runs because he's like kind of a slow, big guy. But if he could kind of get that momentum and think every time he touched the ball, he's going to get it, he started to break 15, 20 yard runs. Tellez Garon is one of those guys where if you let him feel that he's doing pretty good, I feel like he gets stronger and stronger and takes more chances. He's also kind of, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, inconsistent. There's been fights where he's missed weight. I would say for this fight, he didn't look like he was in the greatest shape. He was able to push it, but I think that he's someone where you really don't want him to fight at a pace he's comfortable at. And White, from an early onset, I think fought the fight that Garon wanted White to fight. He let Garon dictate the pace of the fight by moving too much. So I think that was an interesting contender bout. I don't know if I'm answering your question. Segaway, to me, with Acosta, I thought Segaway passed the exam. I think Acosta took a step back moving up in weight, especially coming from the Ramon Cardenas fight. That was a banger. That's a fight of the year contender. And then in this fight, it just kind of showed that Acosta's just got a lot of toughness and a lot of power, but there's nothing that sets the shots up. His corner wasn't really giving him the tools to win. He had a lot of heart, but it just looked like he was outgunned and he didn't know how to make adjustments because the corner wasn't giving him that. One that I would also throw in there was Luis Torres, who's trained by Bob Santos, getting off the 9th round knockout over Jonathan Cardoso. Pretty boring fight, to be honest with you. It was two punchers, respected each other. Cardoso kind of made an adjustment and was really going to that next level. And then out of nowhere, he gets hit with a big shot, doesn't hold. And both the Acosta and Cardoso fight were stopped right at the bell. And they were very confusing stoppages to me because at first I thought the round had ended and then the refs signaled the fight was over. So one criticism I'd have of both of those stoppages, the referee needs to signal their intention earlier because I think that body language of a fighter could change thinking the round is over and then to say the fight is stopped. I don't love that, but I don't know. Did I hit on what you want me to say?
Yeah, I definitely think so. You bring up, guys, I just want to show I got some good friends in here that are probably casual fans of the sport. You know, they're not as obsessed as boxing nerds as we are. But look at that body shot, that classic Mexican left hand to the body. Because, guys, if you're looking for anything this weekend, is both of these fighters, Crawford and Canelo, to land their vicious body shots. Canelo obviously has the more famous left hook to the body. And that's the classic Mexican pressure style that you mentioned something really important, setting the pace. And I think that's going to be one of the keys to victories for both fighters this weekend. Whether you're hoping Crawford pulls off the unbelievable upset, he's going to have to dictate the pace, something that's not going to be an easy task by any means. But speaking of Mexican pressure style, I think we had a fight of the year contender this weekend. The 12th round absolutely blew me away. And because boxing is so limited on how many Americans can watch it, most people probably didn't see it. I'm talking about the Sugar Nunez, who's a 130-pound Mexican champion, against Pitofia Diaz, Puerto Rican guy who I remember him best for his attempt at beating Emmanuel Navarrete, El Vaquero, at 126, moving up in weight. And he delivers again, giving his best fight performance that I've seen in recent memory against Sugar Nunez, a recent champion. And in the stands waiting was Emmanuel Navarrete. So it looks like we could potentially see in the near future a mega Mexican showdown. I mean, what were your thoughts on Sugar Nunez's performance and also the valiant effort by the Puerto Rican fighter?
I loved it, but I've been a Pitufo Diaz guy. I remember when Pitufo Diaz fought for a vacant title against Ioto. It was trained by Rudy Hernandez, and I was at Andy Vences' house for that fight because Andy thought he'd get the next fight. Jamel Herring went on to fight Ito. Andy never challenged for a title. He loses to Albert Bell. It's how boxing works. It's just boxing's
shout out business. To Andy. Shout out to everybody in San Jose. El Tiburon Vences, Andy Vences, and his new gym looks amazing, Stone Gym. But that's crazy. You were at his house, so yeah.
Well, I mean, at that time, that wasn't that crazy. But Pitufo Diaz, he's one of these guys where really, really good up and comer. He was I always had an utmost respect for him. And, his opportunities were against Ito. That was probably his chance to win the belt, to be honest. Then he fought a hungry version of Shakur, who just outclassed him. And then he fought Navarrete. And then he fought Henry LeBron last December. So, I mean, he's just kind of running into these guys that just seem to have another gear. In this fight, honestly, I thought it was a draw. I thought Diaz won more rounds than Nunez. I thought this fight was a draw. The two knockdowns were the difference. Reminded me of Oscar Valdez versus Miguel Mariaga. I thought that was a very good fight. And then the scorecards kind of ruined the fight for me. It was unrewatchable because of the scores. This one had a real unsettling taste with how wide the scores were. And I think it also kind of killed some of the luster to Nunez. I think that there was, in boxing circles, people were starting to wonder, is this guy a boogeyman? Is this guy one of the scary guys? And I think that's all gone now. I think Pitufo has single-handedly kind of destroyed that aura.
Well, I thought that was great. Two examples of great Mexican-style fighting that we got last Saturday, and who better to do it on Mexican Independence Day than Canelo Alvarez, who has been, since the Mayweather fight, essentially been the face of boxing and also the king of Las Vegas, in my opinion, when it comes to the fight game. We have the biggest fight of the year, potentially, depending on the outcome. Who knows? You guys can argue whether or not it's the greatest fight of the decade. Afterwards, we'll debate that. But let's talk about that undercard coming up this weekend, Lukey. We got a rematch, and I thought Serhii Bokacek, 154-pound contender, gave Virgil Ortiz one of his great. Right now, you need coffee as bad as I do. By the way, guys, I haven't had coffee in 2 weeks, and I did not think caffeine withdrawal would be as bad as it is, Lukey. I'm serious. It is bad. I don't know. Do you drink coffee?
I do, but it's I've gone through those withdrawals, but it's I don't know. I've had some ups and downs with things. So I mean, in the ups and downs of things, I would say it's It's inconvenient, but it's not a game changer for me personally.
Oh man, I'm dying to get back to drinking coffee. I don't know when. We'll see, but the undercard, I thought Serhiy Bohacek versus Brandon Adams, right? Would make a fantastic. Brandon should be on the actual undercard, but it's going to be, I think, available on YouTube, guys. So you don't want to miss this fight. And the reason why is because Bohacek has given hell to everybody in the division. He beat Brian Mendoza. I interviewed Brian Mendoza shortly before that fight in March of 2024. That was the fight where Tim Tszyu lost his title to the Towering Inferno. Bohacek
who was Bohacek's original opponent.
Right, and Bohacek ran through Brian Mendoza. Then he had an epic
Who took
fight.
It on short notice.
Correct. Shout out to Brian Mendoza. He's a soldier. And he's also the only guy to have knocked out the Towering Inferno. But Bohacek goes on to have one of the best fights I've ever witnessed in my life, and that's the 12th round banger that he had against Virgil Ortiz. That 12th round is on my channel. I thought it was a fantastic fight. I don't know how Virgil Ortiz got the nod with the 2 knockdowns, but it was probably the most impressive fight I've ever seen between 2 guys going toe-to-toe. I can only hope that Canelo versus Crawford will be that type of battle, but if styles make fights, guys. Anyways, Bohacek is fighting a guy who knocked him out years back now, right? How many years has it been since this knockout? Brandon Adams knocked him out.
4 years, like give or take 4 years. It happened on Ring City, USA, in Puerto Rico. I don't even know how many fans remember Ring City, USA. That was promoter agnostic. NBC
I watched
Sports.
it. I watched it. I saw that knockout.
It didn't have the juice. It just, I think the intentions were there, but it was too ambitious. And I think it kind of paved the way for like a cleaner product, like a Pro Box TV. I think it was a little too ambitious.
Well, I definitely remember Pro Box, whatever that was called, Ring City USA. I forgot the name already, but I remember the fights. And I read a great article on boxingscene.com recently. I'm not sure if you wrote that one. It was the one where Brian Mendoza says that he believes he has the Towering Inferno's number and that he's itching to get a rematch, an opportunity to fight the champion now that he's champion, and get a rematch because he feels he's got his number. So I have to ask you, does Brandon Adams, whose career trajectory hasn't been anywhere I think he's fighting on a different one. He's fighting on a much smaller promotional cards nowadays, but he hasn't had that type of success after that knockout. Does he have Bohacek's number, or is Bohacek a completely different beast now at this point, years later, many fights later?
I mean, Brandon's an interesting guy, right? It's hard to really judge Brandon's career because Brandon, well, first and foremost about Brandon, he came in like the Boxino tournament. Do you remember the Boxino?
No, but
ESPN Plus. Okay, so it was about 10 years ago on ESPN Plus, Friday Night Fights. Brandon was a part of the Boxino. And on the Boxino, the winner was going to get a title shot. He makes it to the finals. People were hyping him. And then he got knocked out by John Thompson, who's now Apollo Thompson. Then he kind of disappears, reemerges, wins the Contender. He's back in the scene, loses to Charlo, disappears again. And then he reappears with this Bohacek knockout, disappears again, fights in the OTX tournament, loses. The big thing with Brandon is he loves to put himself on the ropes and just lose rounds. Now, the flip side to it is he hits extremely hard and has a high boxing IQ. But the downside to this version of Brandon Adams is he can put himself on ropes and think he's doing way better than he is and get outworked. And he has a style that's kind of suited for A-side fighters to kind of get the benefit of the doubt. Now, my question with Bohacek is, I think when guys fight Virgil Ortiz, they're never the same. This version of Virgil Ortiz, the prime Virgil Ortiz, I think is taking parts of guys' primes. I think he's impacting the longevity of guys' careers. And I think fighting this version that Bohacek, since the Virgil Ortiz fight, he had kind of a gimme fight against Davis. Okay, goes through him. Then he goes and fights Mike Fox. I believe he came in overweight, or the fight weight got moved up by I don't remember what it is, but he fought at 160, gets dropped by Mike Fox in the last round, not called a drop. I'm wondering if, because the other thing about Bochuk is he had a real physical style, right? So after fighting a guy like Virgil Ortiz, I have to wonder how much more of that Bochuk relentless style is there, right? Because he's a guy that can get old overnight. And I think Adams isn't going to get old overnight. He just has a habit of sitting on the ropes and just losing rounds because he thinks he's winning the round.
Yeah. It's a great point, guys. And incidentally, I don't think Virgil Ortiz looked worse after the Bohicek performance. I thought his performance over Madrimov was quite good. I started to pull up some odds for this weekend. I don't see that fight, but the one that we can get right into the main undercard. And I'd love to start with the Lester Martinez, who, I've been watching him on Pro Box, Guatemalan fighter, unbelievable power, real stocky build, and he's going to be fighting an Olympian, former Olympian, Eye the Tiger fighter, Christian Inmilly, who's also, co-promoted by ESPN, who Christian Inmilly, his first real, for me, the first fight that made me question how good I thought he was, because I thought, he passed the eye test. I thought he looked fantastic. He looks like a guy that's going to be a real player in the 168-pound division, somebody that's going to be worthy to fight Canelo someday. But then I saw him fight Derevchenko, who gives everybody problems, who made it a hard night. And is there something there that leads me towards Lester Martinez pulling off the upset, because he is the underdog? Lester Martinez might be the best sparring partner I think that Terrence Bud Crawford could have had in preparation to moving up to 168. What are your thoughts on this fight, and who do you see taking this fight?
I have like a million tabs open, so I lost you in my game of tabs. I really like Inmilly. I thought Inmilly was a one-trick pony. So this is my fight of the year type fight on the card, because Inmilly is going to blitz you. He's like a more versatile David Lemieux. He starts fast. He's going to throw combos. Like 100%, I believe that he's going to start this fight quick and try to pounce on mental, because the thing with Inmilly, right, he's always in great shape. He's a really good fighter, but it's like what he doesn't get credit for is the mental pressure he puts on you. So the minute the bell rings, yeah, he's fast. Yeah, he blitzes. Yeah, he hits hard, but he's on you. So like when the fight starts, really good fighters like Sulecki get hurt because he doesn't let you warm up. He jumps on you. And I think what's interesting about this matchup is Lester Martinez reminds me of another great fighter, Danny Garcia. Lester plants his feet. He's not really fast, but he's got good timing and he's got good power. So I think we're looking at a fight where both guys could hit the deck, because you got one guy who's explosive, fast, and quick, and you got another guy in Lester Martinez who's willing to punch with Inmilly. I think it's a great step your game up fight. I think these are the type of contender type fights that we need to get actual champions.
Absolutely.
And, people have kind of, like Lester's fought a lot of hard guys on his come up, and Billy's fought a lot of tough customers. This is really their opportunity to me to solidify themselves as a top guy. I'd say that the winner of this fight, here's a bold take, but I think it's true. The winner of this fight is the best super middleweight that isn't Canelo or Crawford winner. I think this makes this the guy that's right behind them.
Yeah. Wow. Actually, I think I agree with you, because, David Benavidez and David Morrell left the division. And for a long time, it was like, oh, when's Canelo going to fight David Benavidez? When's Canelo Alvarez going to give somebody like David Morrell a shot, who only has 10 pro fights? At the time in like super middleweight, he had 10 or 11 pro fights. But you knew that David Morrell would be a worthy opponent, and they didn't sit around and wait. So they both moved up to light heavyweight. And then I start to look at the other players in the division, and you come up with Lester Martinez. Again, I've never seen a Guatemalan world champion before. He looks like he could potentially be a world champion type guy. And Christian Inmilly, a medalist, Olympic medalist. Stylistically, I'm thinking of that fight between Lucas Badi. You and I have talked about Lucas Badi versus H2O Silva. Is there some similarities there? I feel like, the timing and the power, Lucas Badi, but not throwing as much volume, and then H2O Silva throwing a lot of volume. So stylistically, this fight is going to be very exciting to see who prevails in this fight. I think this one would have made the perfect co-main, but it's not. But guys, don't miss this fight. But your thoughts on that? I mean, is this like you can see Lester Martinez? You said you could see both people being dropped.
So the fight that I would say that it reminds me of, and this is classic words for me to look dumb, right? But then a lot of people in the chat will go, well, when you just show up, you look dumb. And I'll be like, oh, thanks. Jose Zepeda, Ivan Baranchyk. That's the fight stylistically that I see. So I see Inmilly as a more advanced version of Baranchyk. I see Lester kind of being able to box, but he's really a banger like Zepeda. I see a fight that looks like that. I could see the fight you're looking at, but I don't see which fighter between Martinez or Inmilly would embody Silv, who I think has power, but like at the highest level of the sport, I think Silv is someone who's going to want to rely on his boxing skills and deep amateur pedigree, and he's going to pick his shots to land power punches. I think he's more comfortable moving and out athletic an opponent, and then when he feels a clear difference, he'll try to turn up and look for the finishes. I don't see which of these two fighters that would be, because I guess maybe I would assume because Inmilly's probably more athletic than Lester would be him, but I feel like Inmilly's going to press. I don't see him being on the back foot. And I don't really see Lester boxing. I see Lester kind of fighting at the mid-range or there. But maybe you're onto something, because that's just my interpretation. We will see.
Well, I'm going to be hoping that, or looking for Lester Martinez to time him, because I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with Inmilly's speed. But that fight you mentioned, guys, if you guys are more casual fans, that fight took place years back and was a fight of the year contender, where two top contenders at the time, they were both 140-pound players, 140-pound division. I think there was a total of 8 knockdowns in that fight. It was just amazing. And a fight of the, if it wasn't fight of the year for most people, it certainly was for me. I can recall that fight. So, who do you have in this fight, Lukey? Inmilly?
I haven't decided on this one. I guess I'll give you my official pick. It's so tough, because I really, really like Inmilly. You know what? I'm going to go with Lester Martinez, because Inmilly, so I'm going to go with the guy that has less vulnerabilities. Inmilly's more dynamic and has more ways to win, sort of, but he also has more glaring weaknesses, and I think he can... Martinez is kind of like the big average. He's more of a Tim Duncan boxer. And I think that if he fights a composed fight, he's with a really smart team. He beat a guy that's really, really an outstanding fighter, Sean James. I think Lester does it. I think Lester beats Inmilly. I think that my pick is that he stops Inmilly.
And that Sean, that fight was on Pro Box, right? Sean from Sacramento, California.
It's on Pro Box. It was a good fight. I'm on TV for it, sitting ringside. How about that?
All right, guys. I've been going back and forth too. I really like Christian Inmilly, but I've got this gut feeling that Lester Martinez is going to hurt him, and we'll see if he can capitalize on that. And plus, he has, like as you said, Bomac behind him, a great team behind him. And I think Lester Martinez, which I believe he's the underdog. I believe so. I can't find the. I'm seeing a parlay on DraftKings.
He's the underdog because Twitter just put out, or Shakur just put out a thing that said, "Let me put you up on game." Lester Martinez is an underdog.
Yeah.
So I know that at least at some point he was an underdog. I also think that Lester's really friggin' big, and he's way bigger. I've never seen him, Billy, but I would assume he's a lot bigger than.
All right. Well, let's talk about the actual co-main event. I see 702 Man Cave. That's his nephew on the card. Shout out to 702 Man Cave. I didn't get a chance to go see the media day workout yesterday, but the entire Vargas family, the dynasty, as Vargas Senior likes to call it, the family dynasty, all of them were participating in the open workout. It was really nice to see the family thing. And, he's coming into this fight as a 28-year-old underdog to a much younger, also undefeated Calum Walsh of Ireland. I used to, Luki, a personal story. Like, I went to a high school with a lot of Irish guys in San Francisco. Like, my football team was half Irish, and
I've Galileo.
I won't say because there's crazy people that will try to find me.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't say it'll find my freaking high school yearbook. But I played on a football team with a lot of Irish guys, and I had a lot of respect for the Irish guys.
So
and learned a lot about them
in high school.
I was a cornerback.
Well, you're a quarterback, so what's
cornerback.
It like being backup?
That's true. That's true. My football career was not very good. But Lukey, I don't think I've ever shared with you, but I played a game against Tom Brady. That's how old I am. But
I think I played against Marshawn, so that'll give you
that's pretty impressive. Obviously, as a Mexican American, I had a lot of respect for the Irish community and Irish people in general because they're tough sons of bitches. I learned that on very young, growing up in San Francisco, that they're very tough and they love to scrap. And they can drink just as much as Mexican people, and they make fabulous construction workers. And here we have it. We have one of these classic Irish versus Mexico showdown. We haven't seen one of these in a while, and both of them are undefeated. This could be the moment for Fernando Vargas Jr. to become a household name. As it's going to be televised on Netflix. He's the co-main event. This is his opportunity right here to potentially get a world title opportunity before his baby brother Emiliano, who, many people in the boxing community will say he's the standout of the three brothers. And here with a win, maybe even just a win, I think could put him in the talk to potentially be a contender in the 154-pound division. And because of his name, his family name, maybe get a title opportunity much sooner than other contenders in that division. But how is this fight between a much older, they're both top prospects. How is this fight going to play out between an older prospect and a much younger one? Both of them coming from excellent schools. Capetillo Boxing here in Las Vegas and his father, Fernando Vargas. And then on the other hand, you have Caleb Walsh, who's been with, the Los Angeles, what's his name? God, I probably got
Freddie Roach.
Freddie Roach, thank you. What are your thoughts on this fight? How are you feeling about this fight?
So, I mean, look, Callum has been really heavily promoted. I haven't always seen the talent match the promotion with him, but I think he's handled the position he's in is a tough position to be in, where you're very heavily hyped and we're not completely sure if the talent merits the hype, if we're being honest. And your whole career is questioning, are you as good as the hype around you? And I think that's a difficult situation to be in, and he's embraced it and done fairly well with being in that position. So I want to give him credit for that, because that breaks a lot of guys. And the really special guys can handle that position. So kudos to him for that. On the other hand, Fernando Vargas, good left hand. When he fully extends it, it's good. I'm sure he trained hard. He's never been in a fight of this magnitude. I think mentally he'll get up for a fight like this. He strikes me as someone that doesn't want to get his ass kicked on this type of stage. They're both really unproven, right? So I'd have to lean a little bit to Callum, because Callum's passed some of those checkpoints early in his career. Like, he's been dropped. He's had some fights. I think he has his confidence at this level. He feels as though, like, he wants to work with Dana White. I think he's up for that. I think this is like the winner of this becomes a prospect. You see it as like a contender fight. I see it as the winner of this validates their status as a true prospect. I don't really see either fighter currently as a contender.
It's a deep division. It's a very deep division. Talented.
But beyond that, it's like neither of these guys have really taken that step to go to that next level just yet. Like,
well, which is why I said, like, I said no disrespect to either of these gentlemen, but I just felt that for a co-main event, that the Lester and Lester Martinez fight,
it's a famous guy fight, right?
Yeah.
Fernando Vargas, his father is an icon, and he has the same name as him, and he can only be as good of a fighter as Fernando Vargas Jr. can be, but anytime he enters the ring, people are going to remember his father, and that means something.
Nostalgia.
And Callum Walsh has had the backing of Dana White for a long time now. So two really famous figures are kind of have sung the praises of these two fighters. Lester Martinez and Christian Inmilly have probably gotten about a 20th of the promotion of those two. They just can really fight. So this is a co-feature because of the level of interest and popularity and the notoriety.
Yeah, we got pugilism saying, let's go Vargas. One thing I really like about Fernando Vargas, you mentioned he's a southpaw. He has an explosive left hand. He actually, I think he's got above average speed with that. He's very accurate too. He appears to be very tight and accurate on his shots. And Calum Walsh is also a southpaw. Currently, Calum Walsh is the favorite. You see a path for Vargas Jr. pulling off the upset?
I can tell you how either guy I see winning the fight. For Fernando, he has to get his distance and fully extend his left hand. Catch Callum coming in, because Callum is going to put pressure on. He can jab a little bit, really. But what Callum wants to do is he wants to walk forward. He's got that upright style from European boxing, but he's a pressure fighter. So to me, Vargas just has to catch him coming in, being greedy early in the fight, whether it's a straight left hand or a right hook. I think the big thing for Fernando too is he hits hard. Don't worry about loading up on a shot. Just let the punches fly. If he can throw fast punches, if he can put a foot feint in there to get Callum to hesitate, or if a foot feint sets up a big punch and drops Callum, anything he can do to get Callum to hesitate. The minute Callum can't just come forward, he's kind of cooked. He doesn't have a game plan. And then conversely for Callum, if he can put a feint, step over to the side, and get Fernando Vargas to stop pumping a jab, and more so getting rid of the left hand, if he can take away Fernando Vargas's left hand, his straight left, and get to the inside, it's going to be a very hard fight for Fernando Vargas Jr. if Callum Walsh is on the inside working consistently in this fight. It's going to be a very hard fight for him, because that's just not the style of fight I've seen him excel at. I'm sure he could do it, but that is what Callum Walsh does well, is he does well getting to the inside, ripping to the body. That's his stuff. So to me, when watching this fight, the distance the fight is fought at should tell you who's winning the fight. If it's all the way, if they're away from each other at distance, Vargas is probably winning. If the fight is in the mid-range or closer, Callum Walsh is winning. And the more you see of that, that should determine the outcome.
In his father's professional career, Fernando Vargas, there was a fight that I feel like really changed the trajectory of making him a household name. And that was the fight he had with Yori Boy Campos. And it kind of catapulted him at a much younger age, obviously, because his son is now, who's fighting, is going to be 28. But if Vargas Jr. can pull off the upset, is that his moment? That is kind of a reflection on the career his father had. Like, this is now his grand entrance to the super status. Or what do you think about that?
Regardless of what happens, this is a great moment for Fernando Vargas and Fernando Vargas Jr., because he's made it to a world-class stage as a co-feature with his father to fight on a big stage. And I'm sure he's going to have moments. I'm sure this is going to be a fight where it's competitive in moments. So regardless of what outcome happens, I think he can leave saying, you know what, we friggin' did this. And I think that, not to be hokey, but it's like his father took a different career arc. His father went quickly and tried to go Hall of Fame trajectory. Fernando Jr. has gone very slow, and this is his first consequential bout. So I don't think you can fully compare them, because Fernando, I think, was he was like a candle burning at both ends, whereas his son is like a Tesla or like a hybrid. They're trying to maximize the distance that they drive.
The biggest parlay they're offering on DraftKings right now, if you guys look at that, is the parlay is Lester Martinez to win, Calum Walsh to win, and Canelo Alvarez to win. But what does Lukey have in this fight? Caleb, it sounds like you're going with Caleb Walsh.
I think you have to favor Callum Walsh in this just based on experience.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my heart says that Caleb Walsh is going to win. But I am kind of hopeful that Vargas Jr. can rise to the occasion and land his left hand, his very strong left hand. But then again, Callum Walsh also has just as much power, if not more. But I'm going to go with Callum Walsh. But I think Vargas Jr., if he lands that left hand and hurts Callum Walsh, if he can capitalize on it and be explosive like he has against lesser opposition, then maybe he just does pull off this upset and become a star overnight, a megastar overnight. Well, that brings us to the main event, Lukey. And by the way, guys, there is another fight. You guys remember the Japanese monster, Inoue? Lukey? What have you heard about that? He's fighting Abakdeliov, MJ, otherwise known as MJ. And I still don't know where it's going to be. Somewhere on
I
Google.
don't either.
Wow. You know, I asked Google AI, and they said it was going to be on Netflix at 1 a.m. on the West Coast. And I can't find anything to validate that, why Google said it was going to be on Netflix.
What do they say in the fine print of AI? Please fact check, not always right.
Yeah, I also heard it could possibly land on ESPN Deportes, which is, I still haven't confirmed that either. But obviously, if I'm going to watch Boxing Saturday, I want to know how Inoue does against MJ, who I thought was, a person he seemed to have been avoiding, but he's no longer avoiding him. He's going to fight him this Saturday in Japan, and it's going to be late if you're on the West Coast. So, on to the main event. Is it the biggest fight of Canelo's career? Not for him. Is it the biggest fight for Terence Crawford? Absolutely. The biggest fight of the moment of his entire boxing career for Terence Crawford. And he still is the underdog, but a lot of people seem to think he's only the underdog because of size, and size matters, and he's coming up all these weight divisions. So I thought I'd ask you, you already did this incredible article. By the way, guys, you can follow Lukey here on YouTube. I put it in the link, the description, his channel. And I'm reading his article on BoxingScene.com, how the fight is going to play out. Round one. Lukey, how do you have, I'm sure you have your article.
Oh, I got to read my article. So let me get my article up.
You got to get your own cliff notes?
I got to read my own cliff notes because I wrote it, but you kind of do it. I think that the way we should look at it is first from the walkout, right? What's the walkout? What are we going to see in the walkout? I think Crawford's going to be very intense. I think we should prop bets. I think he's coming out to Little Boosie. That's my guess. But he's going to come out to something. I think he's going to be very focused, very locked in. Canelo, I think, is going to have big pageantry and a little bit more relaxed. And I think the first couple of rounds are going to be pretty boring. I think that they're going to be uneventful. I think there's going to be a lot of tension in the crowd. But I think neither guy is going to be really looking to engage too much. So I would expect that through 2 or 3 rounds, we see Crawford up 2-1 or 3-0, at least on the and then that's the other thing too, right? And Mike Rodriguez touched on this in my experts column. A lot of times Canelo gets the benefit of the doubt in scoring in close fights. So if they're 50-50 rounds, a lot of times Canelo gets the benefit when it comes to those rounds. So I think that I'll probably think after 3 rounds, it's 2-1 Crawford or 3-0 Crawford. I really hope that when we go back and look, rounds that appear obvious to most people aren't scored not that way, scored for Canelo when it appears he didn't do much. But my guess would be first 3-4 rounds pretty tense. Crawford kind of just winning by outmaneuvering Canelo, who's a little bit slow at this point, and I think he's gonna start slow.
You mentioned in your article Amir Khan. Amir Khan bravely went up 2 weight classes, as did his nemesis Kell Brook, moved up 2 divisions to fight Gennady Golovkin. Both of those UK fighters, it did not end well for either of them. But Amir Khan had a lot of success in those early rounds. I think I had him up 4 rounds to nothing because of his speed.
6, I had him 6 zip.
And but as
until
of late,
the knockout, yeah.
as of late, it seems like Canelo's stepped on the gas against opponents like, well, not the Cuban that he just fought, but the Mexican fighters or Berlanga. But he does still start considerably slow. And I had been researching his recent plus-minus numbers, plus 12.6. And Crawford is no longer on the top 10 list because of inactivity as far as his defense, plus minus. And guys, for people, if you guys don't know what that means, is how many punches do they land compared to how many punches the opponent misses, or how does plus minus work? How does it work again? I forget. I'm supposed to be the boxing expert. But Crawford's not on the list anymore. So defensively, I think that early on, Crawford is there to get hit, but Canelo doesn't throw that many punches. This is why I think most people are expecting fireworks from the jump. And we know that sometimes these mega fights don't play out that way. It's like Floyd Mayweather versus Pacquiao and other mega fights, that there's much more drama and they start off much slower than we'd like, right? You think it's going to be Crawford up ahead early then?
I think Crawford, just to spoil it, I think Crawford wins the fight. But I think Canelo, we don't know how Canelo starts, because since the Bivol fight, I think he's taken favorable opposition against guys that, like with Golovkin was old. John Ryder's a limited tough guy who he kind of could set a tone with. Munguia's somewhat limited, and then Munguia gets knocked out by a guy we had never heard of. Berlanga, honestly, has never taken like a real high world-class fight as of yet. Like, his two world-class fights are Canelo and Shiraz. I don't know. I can't think of another really big world-class fight that he's had. So I don't really know a ton about what Canelo brings, because it feels like he's fought opposition that he's felt very comfortable for. And then when he fought Skull, it just looked like he was fed up. Like, I get it. Skull didn't really come to win per se for a champion. He excessively moved, but if he had thrown a few more punches, he could have won that fight. And what I really didn't like and I get Skull's bigger than Crawford and all this stuff, but Canelo had elements in that fight of being a fighter who's okay if someone isn't able to land blows that don't hurt him. He's fine walking around and chasing you. Like, there was a level of, he wasn't cutting off the ring. That performance, but really there's been a lot of performances. Berlanga, he hurts, he can't stop him. Munguia, it looked like Munguia was on the way out, can't stop him. It just looks like Canelo gets to second gear and he doesn't want to go to 3 and 4 because he doesn't want to huff and puff. It looks like Canelo, this version of Canelo, doesn't want to be in a hard physical fight. And I think at the very least, even though Crawford's smaller, he's going to make it a hard physical fight.
All right. Very interesting. Is this a fight where it plays out like who makes the mistakes, who makes the most mistakes is going to eventually be the loser? Because I would consider both of these fighters to be amongst the top counterpunchers in the current crop of boxing champions.
I would say it's not as much about like who makes a mistake. I would say it's who's able to set the tone. I think this is a fight that's about the tone of the fight and who's able to implement their style of fighting in the bout, if that makes sense. So I think so for Canelo, it's going to be size and strength. And for Crawford, it's making it a more deliberate and calculated fight. And I think that neither guy is probably going to make mistakes, but I think that it's just who can force the fight. Not unlike Vargas Walsh, who can make the fight that benefits them. Because the paths to victory in this fight are so different that I think the winner is going to be determined on who can have their style be the style of the fight.
I looked at both of their averages punches thrown in most recent fights, and because of the inactivity of Terrence Bud Crawford, we don't have a lot to look at. He's fighting like once per year, but Canelo seems to be comfortable throwing around 41 punches to 46 punches per round. I feel like to really decisively beat Crawford, he's going to have to up that. But I don't know if you just kind of mentioned it, like he doesn't like to go into third or fourth gear. He's comfortable at that pace. Can Crawford force his pace? I think that's a key to victory for Crawford is can he force that pace? But you seem to think he will early on in the fight and take the lead, which puts Canelo behind in rounds. So at what point do you see Crawford switching stances? You know, everybody knows, if they don't know, that he's great at fighting from both stances, and he fights extremely well from the southpaw position. He generally switches stances somewhere through the fight, but Canelo fights great against southpaws.
Hot take, I don't think he switches in this fight.
Whoa. You really don't think so? You think he stays?
I don't think he
starts
switches.
southpaw?
I think the biggest asset for Crawford in this fight is a straight right hand, and I think that if he switches to southpaw, that would mean he'd have to throw right hooks, which could get him in more trouble. I think that the straight right hand, I think he's going to use a lot of jabs, and he's going to use a right hand to time Canelo coming in, move, maybe even tie him up, and just kind of reset. And it's just going to be him targeting Canelo, and that's the fight I see.
That's a very hot take. All right. Does anybody else in the chat think he's not going to actually switch sides? I just felt like he was going to probably try to use that southpaw stance, but not be as effective. And we saw Billy Joe Saunders, not have success as a southpaw. I've seen Canelo have a lot of success against southpaws, but that being said, the jab is going to be extremely important for both of these fighters. Specifically, I think for Crawford, I saw Mayweather use that stab jab to the body so well in his victory. We've seen Bivol control the pace. If we don't see Crawford establish that jab early on, are you going to switch your pick midway through the fight?
Well, I don't think the jab is the key to the victory for Crawford. I think it's more about timing Canelo. So, like the jab, I honestly think guys that jab Canelo, like we've seen mixed success, but like Landy Lara and Austin Trout had a lot of success with the jab and still didn't win the fight. You could argue the scorecards or whatever. But what I've seen from the guys that beat him, like Floyd Mayweather and, in my opinion, Golovkin and Bivol, is they mix the attack up. So what Canelo doesn't really love is, okay, you jab and you make him have to work, but eventually he's trying to slip and rip. But when you can throw a right hand or you hit him to the body and then you give him patterns and then you break the patterns. So if you get him used to, let's say, a jab, a straight right to the body, and then a left hook up top, like Mozzie says, one up top. Then let's say then you go jab, right hand to the face, right hand up top, and then a left hook to the body. All of a sudden, I notice that Canelo doesn't like it when the patterns change at this stage in his career. He doesn't like when guys are switching things on him. He likes to have Canelo, to me, and I could be wrong, likes to fight at comfortable paces and likes to go through the motions in a fight. He likes to kind of see what guys are doing, okay, and he almost kind of spars them at this point. He's looking to land his stuff, but he wants to have a comfortable pace where he feels comfortable. The key for Crawford, I think, is to consistently change up his punch variety, so to the point where Canelo's frustrated. Canelo's like, man, I don't like this. I don't like it. Like when I'm coming in, he's throwing a right uppercut. When I'm coming in, he jumps back and throws a left hook. Like the times I've noticed about Canelo when he's not happy is when things just change a lot. That's when he's not feeling good. So I think that more than a jab, it's about punch variety and taking advantage of Canelo's slow feet in his later age.
Yeah, we had some people in the chat on Monday say throwing bunches and punches for Crawford, which he does so well. And Bivol definitely gave him so many different, like you said, his varied up his offense.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, I definitely remember the frustration, Lukey, the frustration in Canelo when he fought Bivol.
The thing that I think is key for Crawford is an old boxing adage. He needs to do the 3 and out. So he needs to at most throw 3 punches and then get out of there. Because if he's throwing 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, get out, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, But if he starts throwing four and five shots, he's going to put himself at risk. That's a big key to victory, is no more than 3 punches at a time.
I'm curious what the chat thinks, guys. We're about to wrap this up. Let me know. It's Thursday. I'm sure some of you might want to see them on the scale, but I don't think that's going to matter too much. I think Crawford's going to look fantastic physically at 168. But I'm concerned about him fatiguing in the later rounds with most fighters who bulk up in weight. You know, I do believe he'll look speedy at first, but I think like most fighters, when you bulk up that much, there will be fatigue. There'll be the muscles will get fatigued in the later rounds. What do you guys think in the chat? Do you guys have Crawford up? Right now he's still the underdog, but not by much, Lukey. Like it's the odds are really, really close, and I feel like they might even tighten on Friday. Do you think they'll change come tomorrow after the weigh-in?
I mean, the odds always change after people drink.
That's true. Tomorrow the weigh-ins are at 6 o'clock. I think Crawford has to fight a masterpiece to pull off, to get the nod on the cards. It's going to have to be a masterpiece. He's got to win on 2 judges' scorecards, 7-5. It's a tall task, but then again, Canelo looks like he's on the back nine of his career, and Crawford has really never taken punishment, not too much punishment in his entire career. Did you officially have your pick as Crawford?
I'm Crawford, and it's mostly about motivation and enthusiasm. Like, I really wanted to see Canelo be peeved this week and mad that a smaller weight fighter is kind of calling him out. And I think another storyline of this fight is Crawford is doing what guys like Ray Robinson used to do, but because his fights are in HD and they're not in black and white, like the nerds aren't in love with what Crawford's doing. Like, this is what Ray Robinson did with Joey Maxim and all those old fighters people love. But when it happens in our time, all of a sudden, like, it sucks. Because the thing that no one will tell you about boxing history is people that love boxing history love the archiving and they love the nuance and the learning. They don't really love to realize that some of that stuff overlaps into now. It's like, no, don't enter into my sanctity of my world of the past. Nothing is better than my world of the past. And I get it. I have stuff like that. And I also get it. A lot of people enter boxing through addiction, right? So like sometimes people put their addiction stuff into nostalgia or whatever. But Crawford's really, like, him and Usyk's already done this. Usyk's already like an all-time great heavyweight. He's already one of the best ever. But if Crawford wins this, he's up there with guys like Ray Robinson. Like, he's one of the greatest ever because he's 3-division undisputed, but he moves up to super middleweight from starting as a lightweight. Like, this is like unprecedented crap. And for Canelo, I mean, shoot, like, he's a fantastic fighter and he's really had a great run, but he could be the laughingstock of boxing. If you lose to a smaller weight fighter and get outclassed, and you're this dominant force who had such a high price tag for your whole career, if he loses to the smaller man in Crawford, this could like change the way people look at his legacy. And I don't think people are really talking about that element of this fight. Is this could hurt Canelo with his standing of being the greatest Mexican fighter ever. This could hurt the way people look at his career in hindsight. I compare it to, you watch other sports. To me, it's like the way the outcome of this is similar to the final rings for LeBron and Steph Curry, because whose era was it? Was it LeBron's or Steph's? And I feel like if Canelo loses this, then it becomes the Crawford era. Canelo's era is just a smaller part of the Crawford era. And I think that that's what's at stake here, is like, whose era is it?
Obviously, that's going to play into both of these fighters' motivation. Just a quick reminder, guys, if you love boxing history, I looked up a couple of fights that people have done it. Canelo Alvarez has done it. Let's not forget, Canelo moved up 2 weight divisions and actually knocked out Sergey Kovalev to become the light heavyweight champion. He's moved up 2 divisions and done it successfully. He's in the company of fighters like Roy Jones, who moved up to heavyweight and beat John Ruiz. Michael Spinks moved up from light heavyweight and beat Larry Holmes to become the heavyweight champion.
I want to ask something, because my guy, my buddy, what's his name? The guy that does the show with Beeb. Is it JC? He has a good show with Beeb. They do it, but like I'm confused here. So I just wanted Berlanga. Did I say Berlanga's a future Hall of Famer on this show? Maybe in the past I've said it, but that might have also been just to get people mad. Every now and then I say
You were
things
trolling?
just because people.
You said,
Well,
yeah,
no, I
you
just
did.
say it because like sometimes the world just needs people to say things that are interesting. Because like at a certain point, real is real, and everything's the same. So do you want to just consume the same content? Do you want to go to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and just hear the same stuff? Every now and then I get bored and I'll throw a curveball because F it. And I'll tell you why, because I'm not insecure and I don't really care, and it is what it is. So I'm not sure if I said it. Maybe I said it, but I wanted to just bring that up because it's just how I roll, bro. So there you go.
On Monday, Drew gets my co-host gets his fair share of trolling, and Drew unleashes like the. I don't think I've ever heard a co-host with so many F-bombs is great. Sometimes some of the people love it. But I'm like, don't let them get under your skin. Shout out to Drew. I'm rooting for Terrence Bud Crawford, Lukey. I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for the history books. I love a good story. You know, like we talked about looking back on history. I mentioned some fighters that have done it. I went back and read up on Sugar Ray Leonard when he moved up and fought Hagler here in Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace in 1987. He had 4 tune-up fights that were not well known to the public before moving up to fight Hagler. He actually had tune-up fights that were done in secrecy or privacy to get him accustomed to the weight. Terrence Crawford doesn't have that opportunity. Everything's, out in the open now. I'm rooting for him. I just find it hard to imagine that he's going to pitch a perfect game on Saturday night and do it. But I'm rooting for the guy. Canelo's accolades, his record, his legacy, I think it's already been cemented. And I'd love to see a rematch. I would love to see a Cinco de Mayo rematch because that's exactly what we're going to get if Terrence Bud Crawford does the unthinkable and pull off an upset on Saturday. My co-host Drew, I just mentioned him, he thinks there's going to be an upset. He thinks that there's going to be some classic Vegas shadiness and that the cards might be very funny, and he thinks that an upset is possible. I'm going to put my money on Canelo and maybe put a little bit of money on Terrence Crawford for the upset to sweeten the deal. I'll probably do a mixture of both. But I think Canelo wins this fight by decision because, like you said, Lukey, he's got a lot to lose. He cannot lose to the smaller fighter and have his the idea that he is the greatest Mexican fighter tainted like that. So I just feel like he's going to prevail. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think Bud Crawford has a chance at beating him on Saturday night? Put it in the comments now or put it in after the show, your thoughts on it. Anything could happen. We've seen fight cards in Vegas where the judges were tripping on the biggest stages. It happened to Pacquiao. It's happened to numerous fighters. It's happened to Oscar De La Hoya. Anything could happen. All right, Lukey, where will you be watching this fight Saturday?
Dangerous world, so I'm gonna be out the way and around the way.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody who tuned in for a lunchtime chat with Lukey. Follow him at Big Dog Lukey here on YouTube for more of his weekly shows. And his, of course, you can always follow him and read his articles on boxingscene.com. I'm going to see if I feel better. I'm going to go tomorrow to the weigh-ins myself. So tune in. I'm pretty sure they'll let me sneak in my phone and you guys could chat along with me as you guys watch it on your TV and chat with me on my phone. I appreciate you, Lukey, coming. Let's talk next week. Let's see how this all plays out. Appreciate you having as always. Thank you guys, everybody in here. Shout out to Nerd. I'll see you guys on Monday or tomorrow. So make sure you stay tuned and you hit that notifications bell. Dave in the 702, Lukey. Peace.